Mineral Survey Corporation started prospecting for oil in Nigeria in 1903. But there was no oil find at all. And by 1937, the right to prospect for oil in Nigeria was awarded to the Shell Darcy Company, as the company was named. The whole of Nigeria was given to it as the oil block. The whole of Nigeria. So they had a license to prospect for oil in the whole geography of this country. There was no oil find until 1956, and production therefore started in 1958. However, by 1966, as I keep mentioning, Isaac Adaka-Burrow and others were already so fed up of oil that they were ready to push for a secession from Nigeria. Why? Lots of oil spills, the economic impacts of oil exploration was already affecting the people of the Niger Delta. The environmental problems had already shown up in that short space of time between 1958 and 1966. The lack of development, the injustice in the structural allocation of resources was already a problem. Because if you recall, I mentioned earlier that even in 1957, that's before the first oil rolled out, the people asked for their own region. But by then, oil had already been discovered. And in 1958, they began production. In 1958, the Willings Commission refused to grant the people of the Niger Delta their own region, which would have seen them getting at least 50% of the revenues that were derived from oil. So they were very unhappy with the rate of development. There's always been a feeling in the Niger Delta that had they received their fair share of oil, that the Niger Delta would have become Nigeria's Kuwait. And that is the example that they give. The Niger Delta could have been like Kuwait. So, economic hardship is the overwhelming feeling that people of the area had. But even so, apart from Isaac Adaka-Burrow and his 150-man Niger Delta volunteer force that held off the Nigerian military for 12 days, there was no expression, no violent expression of this desire for self-determination until the mid-1990s when the Ogoni troubles began. So the question remains, if the people of the Niger Delta had realized the 50% derivation they were seeking at the time effectively, would we be in the mess we're in today? Also, let's think about it. In a place like Texas, if you strike oil in your back garden, the oil would belong to you, but you would pay heavy taxes to the state. Even if the state charged you 90% as tax, you would still be very wealthy on the 10% that remained. The money was put in what was called a pool account. A pool account, which had all the monies from Nigeria. It was from the 1946 Constitution. And in 1979, this was renamed as the Federation account. That's where the Federation, so constitutionally, all the monies that accrued to the state went into that pool account in from 1946 onwards. All the constitutions upheld it until it was changed in 1979, as I mentioned. So, structural injustices, structural inequalities had been wired into the Nigerian state, and the people of the Niger Delta in particular felt grieved that they were left with the negative and harmful effects of oil exploration without the benefits of having the oil. Where did this thing escalate into a higher level struggle? We had the 1 million man march in support of Abacha. And lots of boys were hired in and they were brought to Abuja. They came to Abuja and they thought, what? See road, see building, see bridges. Now on top of our oil now oil creates all of this. Now wow. And that was the eye-opener for many people. That so if you are telling us you cannot do development in the Niger Delta because of the topography, because of the nature of the soil, because of the swamps and everything, but you could start development from scratch in a place like Abuja and spend that kind of money and get that kind of thing, oh boy, something must change. And that was the beginning of many people looking at the Niger Delta issue very differently.